Hello, and welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast. I'm your host, Melissa McCurley, and after my own battle with autoimmune disease, I created this podcast to share tools, strategies, and inspiring stories of professionals who are navigating life and business with chronic illness. Be sure to join our Facebook community, Bouncing Back Podcast, where we continue the conversation. And I'm so excited to share with you our special guest today, Ula Makowska. She is a hypnotherapist and a root cause specialist, and she channels her own health struggles and healing journey into the work she does with her clients to create lasting transformation. Ula, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, grateful to have you. Will you start by sharing a little bit about your personal health journey, the struggles, how they showed up for you, and kind of what that learning curve was like?
Yeah, sure. So I've had my own range of things that I've experienced, from physical health, also mental health things. What I have struggled with for a long time, also like you, autoimmune. I've been struggling with psoriasis for quite a long time, and one thing that I always thought was related to my psoriasis was actually arthritis and pain in the joints.
I have that too.
Yes, I am only more recently figuring out that I think that that is more related to hypermobility, which is not something that I was aware that I even had until very recently, and maybe say the last 6 months. And since I realized that, a lot of, let's say, random symptoms have been starting to fall into place for me, actually, of, oh wow, I didn't realize that was related. Oh, that was a weird thing that I've been doing that whole time. And oh yeah, okay, that thing too. So all of a sudden, all the things are kind of falling into place. But other than that, I had a very severe burnout episode over a couple of years, and quite a few mental health challenges on my part as well. When I was younger, I didn't actually get treatment for my mental health when I was younger, but recently, a few years ago, I went and got tested because I was really seeking some help for myself. And I got diagnosed with a personality disorder as well, which, I'll talk more about labels later if you want to, but I don't really quite resonate with that. But it kind of did give a bit of an understanding of what I was going through in that period. But with all of those things, you can imagine that they kind of came and went throughout my different phases of my career. So yeah, there's been quite a lot along the journey.
Wow. Yeah. And it sounds like you've been working on this and experiencing this for a while, many years. And that's interesting you say that. And I think maybe let's just start with the conversation of diagnosis/labeling, right? Two sides of kind of the same coin. You mentioned how understanding that maybe you have, it sounds like psoriatic arthritis. Is that, the arthritis from psoriasis that is helping you connect some dots, which I know for me on my journey has been helpful sometimes to be able to do that. But at the same time, that labeling we can do can also create a box for ourselves, right? Like, how do you see that? What's the word? That game, that double-sided coin show up in your journey and the work you do with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, on one hand, if I had always stuck to the label of psoriatic arthritis, I would have never considered that, oh, maybe there's something else which is the problem, which actually I'm really, I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm very certain that it is hypermobility related.
Okay.
And on the other side of the coin, whether it's mental challenges or physical challenges, I think our body is always trying to speak to us. Our mind is always trying to speak to us about something that's wrong. And especially with autoimmune, but also with other things like pain or, skin conditions, all these kinds of things, there is often an emotional component or a psychological component. I don't know if any of your listeners have ever heard of, metaphysical expressions of these conditions, or even epigenetics. I really resonate with the work of Bruce Lipton, if you've ever heard of him.
Oh, sure.
He has a book, Biology of Belief, which really speaks a lot about these things. And I think when you look on that level, you start to see that there's more of a connection between your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, your beliefs, and the body than previously thought. And when we just stick to labels, it kind of takes our power away.
It certainly can. It certainly can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you think, well, this is just a thing that I have, I'm always going to have it, I just need to treat it and treat the symptoms and manage it, you never really stop to think, well, where did this come from? Why me and not someone else? How
Right.
did this develop, and why does everyone in my family have this? Maybe there's an emotional pattern as well as
Right.
a physical pattern that's coming through.
Yeah, for sure. So talking about, root cause work, which is
Mm.
kind of the foundation of what you're doing. And I think we're all learning more about the connection of trauma, particularly early childhood trauma, and also maybe like genetic trauma to root
Mm.
cause. And I think, the root cause, to me, I imagine it like a double helix of a bundle of the body, the energy, spirit, the emotional body, like those things, like you just said, we know they're connected, right? So
100%.
intertwining that, what have you found in your journey there with regard to trauma and its role in root cause?
Yeah, well, that's a complicated one, and I actually had a very interesting conversation about this with my good friend, that I actually don't think that there is as many, let's say, as many conditions out there as we think there are. We have this prevalence of mental health, of autoimmune, all these things coming up, and they say it's a pandemic of mental health or an epidemic of mental health, right? But I don't believe that. I
Okay.
actually believe that it's more an epidemic of trauma.
Mm,
And the way we experience trauma, there's two types of trauma, right? We have like the big, like the capital T, which
right.
is like car accident, war, famine, these kinds of sexual abuse, all these kinds of very intense, terrible things.
Right.
But trauma can also be quite subtle. And that kind of relates more to complex trauma, complex PTSD. I actually have complex PTSD. I was never treated for that. I found that out myself through my own healing journey through hypnotherapy. I was like, hold on, I resonate with a lot of this. Oh,
So
okay.
what is that for people who aren't familiar? What is complex PTSD?
So, complex PTSD is a recurrent pattern of experiences which inhibit the possibility for someone to form a safe connection or for someone
Mm,
to form their identity. So, if you are, for example, let's say your parent has maybe a drug abuse problem, maybe they have mental health problems themselves, maybe your parent is working 5 jobs trying to
yeah.
sustain themselves like a single mom, you don't get the things that you need in order to develop correctly in
Okay.
the right stages as a child. So despite being a adult, you may still have the same consciousness or the same level of maturity as a younger child in some ways. You don't develop the capacity you need to form healthy connections. You don't develop a strong sense of self. You don't develop a capacity for setting boundaries, saying yes or no to people. You are struggling with how to relate to others, how to relate to yourselves. You don't have good capacity for self-soothing, so people might
Mm,
turn to drugs
gotcha.
or partying or sex or gambling or these kinds of things for impulse control because they don't learn how to regulate themselves. So
Makes
there's a
sense.
whole bunch of skills that we need to learn, and if we don't have a secure, emotionally available parent who can also regulate themselves, you don't really learn those things. And for myself, I was a single child, and I didn't have emotionally available parents. So for me, I was alone a lot. So it was very difficult for me to understand myself, my needs, how to communicate with others, and form good bonds with people. So that was my type of trauma. I didn't know how to form connections. And even as I grew up, I struggled with that a lot. And through that process, you form beliefs.
Mm,
And
yes.
those beliefs taint how you see the world and how you connect with other people. So from trauma, small trauma, little t trauma, my parents didn't say I love you, my parents didn't hug me, my parents didn't come to my recitals or my this or do the
Mm,
things that were important to me. Those small t traumas, they add up because you don't have a sense of safety in the world. And that lack of safety ends up creating beliefs about yourself and beliefs about the world at large. So I don't deserve love. I don't deserve attention or being seen. I'm not a good person. If I was a good person, people would love me. People reject me. All these kinds of beliefs that we form from these experiences. And this is for, in childhood years, but this can also happen through later experiences. Maybe, you have a betrayal of a friend. Maybe your partner cheats on you. It can happen later in life too, where we form these beliefs. It doesn't have to be in childhood. But once we form these beliefs, we really change the makeup of our body, our neurochemistry, our energy field. All those things change and adapt when we are not able to align with what we really want. So a lot of the work that I do is between a discrepancy of what we consciously want and what we subconsciously believe. So it might be, I want that promotion. I want to move up to that next level. But the belief underneath might be, if I move up, people are going to realize that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not educated enough. Or it could be, I just don't deserve it. I'm not a good person. I don't deserve that extra money. I don't deserve the recognition. And all of those beliefs end up holding you back. And, you can think about it like this. If I was to say to you, Melissa, your house has just burnt down, what would you do?
I would make sure that nobody was in it.
You would probably freak out a little bit, right?
My first question would be like, is everybody okay? And then I would probably start grieving the things I'd lost. Yeah.
And then, so let's say for 5 minutes, I let you do that. And then I come back and I say, your house is fine. That didn't really happen. How would you feel?
I'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? I think I would feel equal part like relief, but also I'd probably be mad, I think I'd have a lot of things going on. Like I'd probably fall down on the ground from relief, but also be like, I'm going to choke you out. I don't know. And then I would also maybe have disbelief. Like I'd want to go see it for myself because now you don't know it's real, right?
Totally. So think about that experience that you would have. You would first go into shock, then you would be like, what the fuck? And then you would respond like, okay, maybe this didn't happen. I can kind of calm down. I'll be annoyed at you for sure, but I can calm down and, everything's fine. So what happened was you believed something that wasn't true. Your body reacted to it as if it was true. You had an internal experience of stress, fight or flight, fear, and your body believed it was true, even though it wasn't actually. So your mind does this all the time. You believe things that aren't true. You react to things that aren't true as if they are. Like, I don't deserve that promotion. I don't deserve the validation. I'm not good enough. It believes these things about us and the world all the time that are not true. And when we believe something that's not true, our nervous system reacts. Whatever we believe, whether it's true or not true, our nervous system reacts to it.
Right.
So if you're believing, well, yeah, I don't deserve that promotion, then if something comes close to it, you start to get recognition, someone acknowledges you, what are you going to do? Well, no, it wasn't me. I got a lot of help. Or no, I don't know about that. It was a fluke. It was lucky. You're going to negate it because you don't believe it, and your body is going to respond and your nervous system is going to respond. So whether that's in a practical sense of you rejecting an offer, or a practical sense of you being able to level up and rejecting that, or whether that's on a physical level, the stress that you might be feeling, you react to that. And all those things contribute to your health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, on every layer.
Is this where sabotage patterns come from? I can't tell you how many times in business, I'm a realtor. And so we have, there's a lot of activities that you do, and particularly when you're a new realtor, where you need to do them consistently over time to build a business, to build clients. And if you don't do them, you're not going to have a business. They're not complicated. They're not hard. They're actually quite simple, but a lot of times they're unpleasant, like cold calling or things. And you need to do, but it's if you do them a certain amount, it's actually measurable. You make this many calls, you'll probably get this many leads, like it's very measurable. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen come into this business and they just sabotage themselves. They won't make the calls, or they make the calls and they won't practice the script. It's very simple things. And you're just like, A plus B equals C, and you're not getting C, and you're making up all these stories about life and reality and access and, or even people who do start to create some level of success, and then they start doing things. It seems almost intentional to destroy their business. They quit making the calls, or they don't follow up with people, or they don't, or they start acting inappropriate, mean, or whatever to their employees. And it just seems like they have like a sabotage pattern. Is that one of the things that can happen? Because it's such a weird thing to see that in action, and I've seen it more times than I can count on two hands.
100%. 100%. Yes, that is definitely a pattern of self-sabotage. And this is actually one of the things that I specialize in helping entrepreneurs and new business owners work through, is these patterns that come up when we begin a business. And it's internal resistance, right? It's all of our fears coming up. And starting a business or becoming self-employed is one of the most confronting things you can do.
Yes, that's a good word. Confronting.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Because all of your fears, all of your limitations come up in order for you to work through them. It happens also in relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, family. But in those kinds of situations, usually you can run from it. I can just break up with someone if I don't want to deal with that. Ideally not. I can just ignore my family if I don't want to deal with that. But with a business, you started it because you want to do it. So you have to face it, because you're choosing, well, this is the career path that I want, or this is something that I'm passionate about. So in order for you to really be able to do the thing you want to do, you have to confront your limitations. And I see that for a lot of people. Yes, it's, maybe making a social media page, but then never posting on it. Maybe it's, approaching customers, being afraid to do that, being afraid to approach prospects. Maybe it's getting on the sales call and completely fumbling it, and then not taking the time to go practice, learn, maybe get a coach or whatever that thing is that you need. There are so many solutions, but people's fear really stops them sometimes. And you can see a bit of a pattern in the people that this happens with. Start one thing, didn't work out, start another thing, doesn't work out. Or maybe they just never quite get it off the ground.
Right. Yeah.
But it's all about the beliefs. And the good thing is about all of that you can change that.
Yeah. How does that play a role? And is that the primary tool? Is that one of the tools? I've never been hypnotized, so I'm very excited to hear about this.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you an analogy, and we're going to use this to help you understand, and maybe the listeners as well. So I want you to think of your mind like a garden.
Okay.
And in the garden, you have every thought, every belief, every program that is running in your life. And when they're not working for you, you can think of them like weeds.
Okay.
So there's a lot of weeds in the garden. No one's looked at this place for a long time. It's overgrown, it's chaotic, it's not looking good. So I want to start fresh. I want to make some changes in my life. I want to do something with garden. So when we try to change things on our own with willpower, you can imagine it like coming in and tripping all the tops of the weeds, right? So the garden looks good. It looks clear, but underneath, all the roots are still down in the soil. So I've got my new beliefs that I want to plant, like I am successful, I do deserve it, I'm going to go out and get it. I plant all the seeds in the garden, but all the roots are still there. So after a few weeks, they keep coming through. You start to see the weeds again. And I like to liken this to maybe the experience, like you've been working really hard, you're really committed, you have a really bad day, and then you come home and you're like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it. You've been so good, and then that one small trigger just sets you off. So, that's the weeds coming back through. You didn't really get rid of them. So what we're doing in hypnotherapy is we're coming in and we're actually finding the root cause of the problem.
Gotcha.
We're digging in, we're pulling out the weed, ripping it all out, and we're making a clean slate. a garden that is actually clean, doesn't just look clean, but we're taking out all the junk, the old beliefs, the old programming, the painful emotions, and anything else that's holding you back. And once we've done that, we can really plant those new beliefs and help them get wired in really strongly, because you've let go of the past. You've taken out what was there before. So that's how we do it. That's really what I think sets hypnotherapy apart from a lot of other tools. And some people think hypnotherapy, it's therapy, it's just for things like anxiety, depression, those kinds of things, but it's really not. We can use it on almost anything. And I think it's really powerful, particularly for entrepreneurs and people who are maybe trying to build their careers and feel themselves pushing up to their limits, because all those things come back to beliefs in the end. Everything that we struggle with, everything we do is beliefs. I think they even say that 95% of your thoughts that you have every day are of the subconscious mind.
Right.
So they're not really your conscious thoughts. It's the subconscious continually pushing those thoughts up into your conscious mind. So if you have a subconscious that's full of, I don't deserve it, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, it's going to be really hard to change your life.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Wow. So can you give us an example of how, like a hypno, what am I trying to say? Can you give us an example of like how that would work for a belief, like from start to finish? Somebody comes in, let's say they say, okay, I want to root out this belief that, I guess I'm not enough. It's a pretty big one. Maybe start a smaller one, like, I don't know, I don't deserve love or something. Like, how does that work?
Absolutely. And I want to be clear that you don't need to know what the belief is when you come in.
Okay.
So when we begin a session, it's all about, what is the problem that you're having? What is the pattern that you keep experiencing? Where do you keep getting stuck? So you might come in and say to me, well, I've been working at this place for the last 5 years. I keep doing a good job. No one recognizes me. I'm expecting a promotion, but I haven't said anything. I've been putting in extra hours. I've been offering to put my hand up for projects, but no one's really acknowledging me. And the last promotion cycle went around and nothing happened. And they said I was okay, but I didn't say anything when they didn't offer me anything. And I didn't speak up when I just got average instead of exceptional, or things like that. So that's the pattern, that's the problem. And
Okay.
from that point, we can go back to the scenes, the memories, and the experiences which cause that pattern. And once we go back to those scenes, I can help you unpack what are the emotions around that and what are the beliefs that were formed in that moment. Because it's all about that moment. Our subconscious mind takes us right there. We don't even have to think about it. Our mind says, like, yes, this is the moment where it all began. And then from there, we can figure out, well, what belief was formed. So it might be, I'm not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. I've had one of my clients was a twin. And one of the memories she went back to was, it was like a dance recital or a musical recital, something along these lines. And after the recital, they said to her twin, wow, you were so amazing. You did such a good job. We're so proud of you. And then to her, they said, oh, you were good too.
Aww.
And they didn't say she was bad, but she wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Not as good as her sister. So even in something as small as that, a belief can form that I'm not enough the way I am. Because if I was, they would have said that to me too.
Right. Imagine for a child too, living with a twin, that would just anchor that in. She'd probably see everything going forward through that filter.
And that's just one example, but it can
Yeah.
be 100 different things. And I'm not enough is one of those core beliefs. It's underneath a lot of the things that we
Right.
experience, but it can come through as many other things. And I say often, if I see 5 people with the same problem, the belief underneath might be 5 different things. It's not always going to be the same. It can be variations or whatnot. And I never assume anything before I go in, because I don't know what you experience. I don't know what's underneath. And sometimes it's very surprising what's underneath, actually. But that's why I don't like to assume, and I don't like to put labels on people, because,
Yeah.
Especially when we were talking before about diagnoses and stuff like anxiety, depression, like for me, I was prescribed borderline personality disorder, I definitely don't resonate with that. And I don't actually feel that I am that person anymore. So I would say, from my perspective, I healed my personality disorder. But if you talk to a psychologist, they would say, like, no, you can't heal a personality disorder. That's your personality. But it's not about what's wrong with you. It's about what happened to you.
Right. So connecting to chronic illness then, as you're working with clients, rooting out these weeds on things that are holding them back, it sounds like, in kind of measurable things in their life, business or relationships, or they're repeating the same pattern. How then have you seen that connect into chronic illness patterns?
Yeah, so, there's so many different ways it can connect. I've seen a lot of autoimmune is related to challenging emotions that you don't want to feel. So, for example, I know for myself as well, I'm not healed with psoriasis, but, I've been working on it. And there was a lot of challenging emotions I didn't want to face, that I didn't want to admit to myself. I think that's common a lot for autoimmune conditions. The other thing that I have personally witnessed, and this is my own theory, I mentioned about hypermobility before. So that's when you have weak connective tissue. So you're able to bend more easily than other people. You also get injured a lot more easily than other people because that connective tissue in the ligaments and in the joints becomes too stretched and you can hurt yourself. And it actually came to me in a meditation that I was doing, and I verified it with a bunch of people. And so far, everyone I've spoken to, it has proved true, is that hypermobility and weak connective tissue is connected with poor boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you think about it, having poor boundaries basically means you're not able to be strong in your opinions or your decisions or your values. And whether that's in personal relationships, friends, romantic, family, whether that's at work or whether that's energetically, there's many different levels of boundaries, which I have discovered for myself. And if you think about hypermobility, the connective tissue is not able to hold its own form. It's not able to be strong, right? So there is a direct connection. If you have poor boundaries, you can't hold your form. You can't be strong. If you have poor weak connective tissue, you also can't hold your boundaries and be strong. And so far, everyone that I've seen who had hypermobility also all had terrible boundaries that they've had to work through and learn and adapt to. So that's one that I find super curious because I don't know anyone else who's talking about that.
That's interesting.
And from my own lived experience, I see it to be true.
Wow. I got to think on that one. That's very interesting.
It's deep.
Yeah, it's very deep. I find that to be true too. Like when we start connecting these dots on things and then we start looking at the parallels, emotionally with experiences, trauma, and then even spiritually, like just how they are so all connected. Well, gosh, I feel like we could talk all day. We're kind of running up against time. I love the work you're doing. Where can people find you? If they want to learn more about what you're doing, more about hypnosis and these things, where can we find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main platforms are Instagram and LinkedIn. Instagram is my name, Ula Makowska with an underscore at the end. LinkedIn, just my name. And also my website, you can find a little bit more information about me there, which is www.ulamakowska.com. Before we wrap it up, I do really want to mention that I have my own therapy that I've also created in this process. It's from my own lessons from hypnotherapy, my training, and also my own spiritual journey. I call it Soul Freedom Therapy, and it is so powerful. Basically, everything that we're doing with what I just mentioned in hypnotherapy, but we're also looking at where the issues originated, whether that's even in this life or not. And a lot of our programs and our karma is not even originating here. So by looking at perhaps a past life, seeing what was the lesson that you needed to gain from that experience.
Okay.
And by clearing and completing the contract, you can actually get rid of the problems really, really fast. I have been doing so much of this on myself this year. I only started really working with it strongly this year, and started working with clients as well this year on this protocol. And I have seen so many changes, like changes.
Can you share an example? Because I know some people have been on the fence about that. For somebody who's kind of interested, but maybe that's, a little outside their comfort zone, or they need a little bit more to dig their teeth in to be able to say yes to that. Can you share an example that would help them see how it might tangibly work?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll give my own example. I won't give from a client. So I was about to make a very big investment earlier this year, and this would have taken out all my savings. And I felt very much that I needed to make this investment, but I was also really resistant and really afraid. And I kept getting this feeling of I'm not ready. And when I went back to explore this, because it was like, why? It's the right thing. Why? I went back to this past life where I was living, and I was looking back at my home, and it was just before my entire home was destroyed. There was nowhere left to go. It was quite a big catastrophe. And in this life, it was a feeling of I'm not ready to leave. And when I leave, nothing's ever going to be the same again, because my home is gone. Everyone I know is gone. Like I'm like, let's say, cosmically homeless in this situation.
Okay.
And in that life, it was everything's going to be different, and that's a bad thing. So I'm not ready to leave. Whereas in this life here for myself, it was after this point, everything's going to be different. But I knew in this life it was meant to be a good thing. But in that life, it was bad, because I could never go home. I could never see anyone I knew again. I could never be with anyone who knew me again from that point. And I had to release that feeling of I'm not ready, because I just associated with not being ready that it's going to be bad from this point onwards. But I had to learn that, no, it's actually going to work out. So from that point, I was able to release that. I made the investment, and things are moving forward in a good way. But it was quite significant for me, because that feeling disappeared overnight.
Did just the realization, just having the memory of the past life, like make that go away? Did you have to do work around it, or was it just literally connecting that dot?
So I have a process where I connect the past life and the realization and clearing that afterwards. And then there's a few other things that I throw in as little bonuses to help you really get the most out of that experience. So the realization helps, but it's also about accepting the lesson that you need to learn out of it, because you might have a lesson that maybe you've been quite resistant to. You need to be fully on board, like, yeah, okay, like I'm ready to accept that. Because if you don't learn the lesson, how can you get rid of the thing?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, this is great. I appreciate you so much, guys. Go check out. We're going to link in the show notes all the places you can access Ula and her amazing work. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Please rate, review, and share this podcast. It helps us so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more inspiring stories of success. So until then, keep bouncing back. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Bouncing Back Podcast, Professionals Thriving with Chronic Illness. I hope you found inspiration and actionable takeaways to support you on your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Remember, thriving with chronic illness is possible. You are stronger than you think. Until next time, take care and keep bouncing